Type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, should Uganda expect compensation for its choppers that crashed recently, considering the Memorandum of Understanding between the United Nations and the AMISOM mission? Recently, 3 UDPF helicopters crashed in Kenya, killing 8 servicemen while en route to Somalia for a UN-backed peace mission. Following this disaster, President Museveni named a commission of inquiry chaired by his brother, General Salim Saleh. In Parliament, MPs have insisted that they have no faith in this team, preferring to undertake their own independent investigation. At the time the involvement of the UDPF deployment in Somalia was sanctioned, government indicated that the UN would bear the costs and also pay for any weapons used by the Ugandan contingents. This agreement is said to be contained in a Memorandum of Understanding signed by Uganda, the African Union, and the United Nations. There has been a lot of debate on whether Uganda should demand for compensation for the loss of the helicopters and human life, and the Ministry of Defense has remained tight-lipped on the matter. There are people also suggesting that it's important at this point to review the involvement of Uganda in Somalia, despite reports that progress has been made already. This week, the term of the transition of federal government in Somalia came to an end, but reports say the political question blamed for the troubles of Somalia is yet to be answered. One key partner in the fight against terror in Somalia has been the late Ethiopian leader Meles Zenawi, whose death has been held by the insurgents. Can his death have an impact on the peace mission? That's a question we ask. So tonight, basically, we look at the Somalia question, especially the involvement of Uganda, and just how far this mission will go to bring peace to Somalia. Our guests tonight, Colonel Felix Kulaigye, the spokesperson for the Ugandan Army, that's the UDPF, and the Ministry of Defense. We expect him to join us shortly. And we're in the studio right now, have Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaroho, Shadow Minister of Defense, also Member of Parliament for Obongi County. You're most welcome, Honorable Fungaroho.
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. I would like also to thank the management and staff of Radio 1 FM for the work you're doing. I also salute you for tuning in, all of you listeners who are with us at this moment.
Honorable Fungaroho, why is Parliament opposed to the Saleh probe?
Parliament has about 4 reasons as to why she's opposed to the Saleh probe team. One, the team was constituted without involvement of Parliament, and we question the terms of reference. What are these people going to investigate? And again, the people, mainly, this is the most important point also. The people, particularly General Salim Saleh, who is put to head this probe team, is a member of the military, though he is the commander of the reserve force, and not so much in active service these days, but he is a very influential person in the army. He can influence the results of the probe. So the probe catch some people where he has interest. Again, he doesn't have a clean record as an officer of this government and this army. There was a time he was accused of having involved himself in the procurement of junk choppers. Maybe these are the choppers he was involved in the purchase. So for us to put him there would mean a miscarriage of justice, a miscarriage of investigations. In these investigations, some of the terms of reference will include the following. One, the type of choppers made and that the ones that crashed, the manufacturer who made them, the manufacturer's specifications in terms of date of manufacturing, when were they manufactured and issued out, for how long were they expected to fly, for how long have they flown so far by the time they were brought to Uganda, their airworthiness, were they airworthy, all these were second-hand used aircrafts. At most, we members of the African countries, including Uganda, when we go out to buy equipment, we buy used equipment. Even military equipment like tanks we use here are not very new tanks. Some of them are T-52 tanks, tanks of World War I, World War II. Some of the things are outdated and written off in their places of manufacture and used by the original countries. So because those countries want to dispose them off, their pricing is put to be low, and we usually like this thing of going for the cheapest, not for the best. The cheapest may not necessarily be the best. So did we buy second-hand things, like you say, second-hand clothes, second-hand, how do you call second-hand clothes in Uganda?
Mivumba.
So maybe these are Mivumba helicopters. So we need to establish.
Sold by the kilo, maybe.
These are some of the things. And again, we need to also investigate the supplier who took the tender to bring these things here. And were there any people who are involved in the process of procurement and logistics, both internally and externally? There are these things of commissions and commission agents, kickbacks. Several government projects actually end up badly because people in government who are supposed to negotiate and defend the government in this deal get compromised through kickbacks. At the end, they argue and negotiate in favor of the supplier. So General Salim Saleh is seen in the light of a person who is most likely to have participated in such a dirty process. So for him to investigate, and worst of all to lead an investigation, is very terrible. Instead, he must be investigated himself. He is one of the persons who should be investigated, not one to investigate.
Really?
And for us as a parliament, particularly the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs, where I sit as a member, we have decided that we are going to set our own parallel probe team. If President Seven wants to continue with this team, let him go ahead, but we don't know where he is going to submit his report. Ours will be submitted to the parliament. We have made preparations to demand for an explanation from the Minister of Defense about the circumstances under which this aircraft crashed. Parliament has been on recess largely. I mean, the plenary has not been on, but the committees have been so busy considering the budget, ministerial policy statements. We've been around, but the plenary is going to resume this week, next week, 27th of this month, 27th, 28th. If not 27th, at least 28th it will be there. And there we shall expect a presentation, a full report about the choppers that crashed from the minister. We need also the minister to be put to task to explain how a decision was reached to deploy choppers there. And we also need experts, including the minister, to explain what the mission is. A peacekeeping mission or a war, outright war. Next time you will hear that the jet fighters which have been bought expensively here,
the 6 we bought from Russia.
The 6 we bought from Russia. After one is already down and has been taken for service before even it has been used because it had problems in the delivery process. This is one thing we have learned with the shock. So we will hear that these choppers are also deployed. I mean, these jet fighters are also deployed there. So we want to know whether the conditions in Somalia require the deployment of such systems of defense, and how they were prepared to leave the route chart prepared for them to follow. Were they not aware of the mountain along the way, mountain Kenya area? Why did they fly into that area where the crash occurred? So we need also to investigate the instructions given to the pilots by the commander who commanded them to move along that route chart, and at that time. We are also going to demand for an explanation from the minister about the situation in Somalia. Just like what you are seeing now, there are many things taking place now about Somalia, or within or outside Somalia. The time given for the transition federal government has expired. It was extended here in Kampala, remember?
Yes.
I cannot quote the date exactly. That time has expired. When the actual thing meant to be done in the process and by the transitional federal government has not yet been completed. Putting in place a parliament elected by elders and clan leaders, they have gone that far, yes, adopting a constitution, but they have not yet put in place a government because they have not yet elected a president.
Yes.
They are at a crucial stage of electing their president, but this process has not been completed as of now. Again, we have been hit by sad news, as you mentioned here, about the death of His Excellency Meles Zenawi. May his soul rest in eternal peace. And I would like to express condolences on my own behalf and on behalf of the opposition whom I represent here and the people of Obongi whom I represent in Parliament. I express these condolences to the people of Ethiopia and Africa at large for the loss of this statesman. Now, the problem here is one of the key stakeholders in the issues of this Somali mission has passed on. His Excellency Meles Zenawi is no more, but we want also an update from the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, a statement about how the departing of His Excellency Meles Zenawi
will affect the
operation, positively or negatively.
Yes.
To what extent is the country, even Ethiopia herself, prepared for such a situation? We have a problem of a leader, a strong leader, departing suddenly without preparation. Actually, this is one thing which is always talked about. Meles Zenawi has been dubbed, called a revolutionary leader, but the revolutions are measured after the departure of the founders,
yes,
the protagonists, because the idea should be able to live the time beyond the time of the founders or the people who are standing for those ideas. Such a thing can always happen when the revolutionary leader leaves for another group, leaves the office for another group to take over when he is still around, so that they can see and guide from outside, from behind, from the rear when some people are here. Ethiopia has also entered a very difficult crossroad where it may also become like Somalia and may need a rescue from the African Union. God forbid that should not happen. So we need also an update about not only Somalia but also the situation in Ethiopia as of now. How ready is the state, the civil service, the political and the military of Ethiopia to handle the post-Zenawi era now that he has gone? How will they handle this issue of Somalia? Was it really any Ethiopian project as a state, or it was a Zenawi project as a person? Because these are possibilities also. This Somali mission has been influenced and heavily backed by the West. This one we cannot run away to say this here. We can talk about AU, African Union, but the UN,
budget problems,
the UN, and even the US, the hidden hand of the US has been there. You need to know and acknowledge the fact that this traditional federal government is one that has been supported by the United States of America, at least morally, we know that far. And materially, we cannot guarantee, but we cannot dismiss also that all these countries, including Uganda, might have received some support from the United States of America, and the United States of America, as you know, is comfortable with Museveni, President Museveni, the president of Uganda, and also comfortable with the Zenawi. At one time, these leaders plus others were called a new breed,
the new breed of leaders,
of African leaders.
Yes.
Now, will the United States of America be comfortable, and will the United States of America foreign policy accept the new president whom the Ethiopian people will put in place after Zenawi? Will there be no rejection of such a person and the new system coming in place after Zenawi? Because this is one of the factors that causes instability in Africa. Somalia would have stabilized a long time than now if it was not for the rejection of the United States of America and the Western world of the leadership that emerged simultaneously in Somalia from the ruins of the state when the president of Somalia, General Siad Barre, died in 1991, and when warlords came and wreaked havoc in the country, until a group of Somali indigenous emerged and put the question of warlords to a standstill, and put in place a system which removed the warlords. I mean, this was a group called the Union of Islamic Courts.
Yes.
They controlled most of the southern Somalia. They tackled the question of piracy on the sea. They pulled law and order. The warlords which the United States, with all its military might as a superpower, failed to defeat, were defeated by the Union of Islamic Courts. The only misfortune was that they were not accepted in the West.
Right.
Though they were accepted in Somalia locally, they were not accepted in the West because they were dubbed, they were called as Islamists, supporters of Al-Qaeda, or what and so forth.
Right. But of course,
so the rejection of a leader by the West is a cause of instability.
Right.
Even for us in Uganda here, even if we say President Museveni is good to us, if the West say we don't want Museveni, if Museveni doesn't serve their interests, we shall have problems here in this country. Of course, so we have a question now.
Right.
The person coming after Meles Zenawi,
will he be accepted?
Will he be accepted by the West?
Okay. Well, of course, some of the dynamics happen without discounting a lot of the explanations that you've given, the good analysis that you've given tonight. Finally, what you mentioned towards the end, the dynamics seem to be changing. Hosni Mubarak was much loved by the West, endorsed by the West. He was in power for 30 years and he was endorsed by the West. And because he was a buffer against Islamist extremism, protecting the Jewish interests. But then when the Muslim Brotherhood came in, when the Ray uprising came up, he was allowed to go. And now the Muslim Brotherhood is in power and the US can do literally nothing. Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight on Spectrum, should Uganda expect compensation for its helicopters that crashed recently, considering the MOU between the UN and the AMISOM mission? Our guest tonight, Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaroho, Shadow Minister of Defense and also MP for Obongi County. We've just been joined by our second guest, Colonel Felix Kulaigye, spokesman for the UPDF, that's the National Army, and the Ministry of Defense. You're most welcome, Colonel Kulaigye.
Thank you, my brother. Good evening, listeners. Good evening, Honorable.
Yes, good evening.
I have been between Kampala Road and your entrance here for the last 45 minutes.
There you are.
Because of what?
The jam.
Whose jam? NRM jam.
Well,
you are not NRM for you.
People are confident to buy cars.
He's in the middle. He supports all parties, including you.
He's supposed to be neutral, but sometimes he misbehaves.
Colonel Kulaigye, this Salim probe has been rejected by Parliament. What are you people going to do now?
Well, I think the Constitution provides the President with the powers to appoint probes whenever, as and when they are required. That's number one. Parliament has the freedom to accept it or reject it, I believe. I think it is within its mandate. However, I need to point out that I think General Saleh has chaired 2 committee probes so far, and the outcomes were not rejected by Parliament. Actually, one of them that I remember very well is about Umeme.
Electricity.
Yes, it has guided Parliament quite well. I need to be educated if I'm mistaken. I heard one of the reasons he gave. But that would mean, for example, that when Saul, who turned Paul, began preaching in Galatia, in Corinth, and others, they would say, don't talk to us because the other day you were hunting against us. So I think it's true, General Saleh in 1998 came out open and said, yes, I received a bribe, this is the money. Do we say a person can't change? I believe a person can change, and we should not be stuck in the past.
Let's move forward. Let's talk about the substance itself. Will Uganda demand reparations for these helicopters and the lives that were lost?
You know, when we enter these missions, there is a Memorandum of Understanding, and the Memorandum of Understanding between the government of Uganda and the African Union about the deployment of air assets is there. I do not have permission to air it out, but I believe it will be followed in negotiating or discussing the aspect of compensation. First and foremost for the personnel. For me, my concern is the 7 Ugandans were lost, well trained, and
with families,
breadwinners for their families. To me, it's a very big matter. Unlike those who are putting a lot of emphasis on the machines. The machines, yes, we have lost money, but money can be made. Human beings can't be replaced. But I had wanted to start with real condolences to the people of Ethiopia. They have lost two important leaders. His Excellency Zenawi passed away. Then the spiritual leader, the Pope, the Pope passed away. Actually, his funeral was today. So both the political leader and the spiritual leader have died. So the country is here in a very serious mourning. And my heart goes out there. The heart of the UPDF goes to the people of Ethiopia. Personally, I was in charge of Zenawi's security for 3 times. We met in Asmara, and he gave me away saying I was a visitor. He was at home. Later, I was surprised when he went to war with the Afweriki. Yes, he was calling. Yes, when he was calling Asmara his home. Quite a tough leader, but with a lot of humility. Yes, quite a tough leader, but he was a very humble leader.
Well, he's one leader I never met. I've met some other African leaders. That one I never quite met.
I had 4 occasions to meet him, so that's why I'm telling you, and closely, and for days. So I'm analyzing him from a knowledgeable angle.
Right.
But his departure certainly brings a shock not only to the Eastern African region. It brings a lot of questions on the question of on the issue of AMISOM, because we have been succeeding because Ethiopia has been leading the way. Before AMISOM moves in, Ethiopia has been providing us what we would call a safer landing before full force will be in.
We'll have to go for a break.
Okay.
But of course, he's also been providing a buffer, protecting against allegedly Eritrea, which is alleged to sponsor the Al-Shabaab.
Partly, it's believed that Eritrea has been financing Al-Shabaab, but as you are aware, we are now with diplomatic ties with Eritrea, so I have to go slow on that one.
We have to say them without microphones. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, should Uganda expect compensations for race helicopters that crashed recently? We'll go for a break. We'll be back. To stay tuned.
You can pay, you can buy, pay your bills, pay school fees, send cash overseas, pay taxi fees, and salaries, anything you need,
You can do anything with MTN mobile money. And now, for the first time in Uganda, you can even pay your electricity bills. Go to your MTN mobile money menu, select pay bills, select Umeme Touch Pay, and follow the prompts.
MTN, everywhere you go. John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special.
You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. Should Uganda expect compensation for its helicopters that crashed recently? Looking at the Memorandum of Understanding between the United Nations and the AMISOM mission, that's the African group. Our guest tonight, Colonel Felix Kulaigye, Defense and UPDF spokesperson, Ministry of Defense and UPDF, that's the National Army spokesperson, Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaroho, Shadow Minister of Defense, also Member of Parliament for Obongi County. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Colonel Kulaigye, you came in late. Let's get a little bit more from you. How much was this loss worth? Very briefly, do we know?
People have been interested mainly in the cost.
The equipment.
Somebody was asking me the cost of equipment. The last I checked, they were about $4 million. Each of them.
Each one of
them. Each one of them. So we are talking about 12 million. What I am also sure is that 2 of those were not completely destroyed, we shall be able to recover some of the parts. The burnt one is the one we are losing. We have lost hope in terms of recovering any equipment from it. But if you are going to estimate the value totally lost, I can't hazard into it.
All right.
The other thing, I thought I should maybe make a correction. I had Honorable calling General Saleh Commander of the Reserve. He was before he retired. Now the Commander of the Reserve is Major General Levi Karuhanga, the first Commander of AMISOM. But he remains the presidential advisor.
Thank you for that correction.
Of course, I'm giving information.
Yes, that's right.
I'm giving information.
Okay.
But I think the most important thing, Edmond, and I wanted to put this in perspective, given not only what Honorable has been saying before he came in, but the thinking. I had on your news item talking of people who are saying they want to demonstrate against our being in Somalia and what have you. I think there are certain things we should put out of debate now. Do we, as a country, benefit from being in Somalia? And I think the question has a clear answer. The stability of Somalia affects the entire Eastern African region. If you're a student of conflict systems, we have the Somali conflict system, the Sudan conflict system, the Great Lakes conflict system. These conflicts feed on each other. So you cannot expect one conflict to die away if another one is still there. That we are having the Sudan conflict dying away with the independence of South Sudan. It would be good for the Sudanese people, for the entire Eastern Africa, for the Somali conflict as well to die away. Equally, the Great Lakes region. We had the Ghana corridor, Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, and then Uganda, fueling the cattle rustling problem, both in southern Sudan, northwestern Kenya, and northeastern Uganda. You realize we have registered success as we succeed in Somalia, so we are succeeding here. The other aspect is that you consider it, and Honorable was saying they need to find out from the minister, are we at war, do we go to keep peace? But all of us do agree that there was actually no peace in Somalia to talk of. Although the UN has been shy, and I will say this one openly, has been shy to elevate the mission to Chapter 7, which is peace enforcement. Reason being, there are a number of things that are required to be fulfilled. But as a result of that, we were the ones at the receiving end. You are seated like, you are sitting dark. You are sitting dark. You are being attacked. So it was until July 11, 2010, when we were attacked here by the Al-Shabaab, that then Uganda was, the AMISOM commander was given a leeway that you can attack preemptively should you be convinced they're about to attack you.
Some correction here, something here, clarification really. When did we go to Somalia?
2007.
2007?
Yeah.
To 2007?
Yes.
Now, when were we attacked by Al-Shabaab?
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
The thing I'm driving here to is that the point you said that there was no peace in Somalia, talk about no stability, is fairly incorrect.
Yeah.
Because before this mission started, the transitional federal government we are supporting now was not in Somalia. It was not on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was established outside Somalia, only backed by some powerful people, including the West mainly. These people were in Kenya here. But there was stability in Somalia for 6 months. It is on the record.
Can I also from you?
And most of southern Somalia, as I said here, was controlled by the Union of Islamic
I
Courts.
heard you, and I wanted to give you a correction.
So really, when someone says there was no peace in Somalia to keep, this is not correct.
Can I give information? Yes. Whereas this is true, Mogadishu was peaceful because of the Union Islamic Courts. 2 points we can't ignore. One, who was chairman of Union Islamic Courts? Sheikh Ahmed Sharif, the current president. And he himself has been very clear why he abandoned Union Islamic Courts. When it was taken over by Al-Qaeda, he saw it no longer a Somali outfit, he abandoned it. 2, indeed, when you see the Pakistanis we have killed in Mogadishu, is it a Somali question anymore? One of whom we found had the receipt having sent home $9,000, another one 6, 2 Pakistanis.
Right.
So
mercenaries apparently.
These were Al-Qaeda who had come to head this whole thing. So whereas Al-Shabaab actually means Islamic youth. They were taken over by the Al-Qaeda. Number 3, and I thought I should bring out this very clearly, Union of Islamic Courts was party to the pact that they had signed in Nairobi. They were part of the TFG. Now, given the conflict between Ethiopia and Eritrea encouraged them to march on to Mogadishu ahead of the rest of the TFG because they knew Ethiopia was on this side. That's why Ethiopia was very quick to move in, and the entire world looked the other way.
All right.
Now, another example which is very important, Mr. my brother here.
Yes.
A comparison between the Sudan and the Somali insurgency, conflict. The world should know that this issue of Somalia and Sudan bear a lot of similarities.
Yes.
Both in terms of the internal content and the external interventions. Sudan has come to a stability the way we see it, primarily, number 1, because the leadership was internally generated, the process was internally generated.
Yes.
Today, the US, which appears to be a good friend of the Sudan People's Liberation Army, SPLA, was the number 1 enemy of the SPLA at the beginning. The war against the SPLA, the first weapons which were used against the SPLA by the government of the then president, Nimeri Jafar, were given by the US. The US did not like the SPLA, it dismissed the SPLA just like the way it dismissed the Union of Islamic Courts. But for the SPLA that time, they were rejected because they were said to be communists. They were said to be people who are aligned to this. But what did the US do? When the US saw that it was impossible to destroy the SPLA, to stop the SPLA, they decided to come inside the SPLA to shop for leadership, to capture the top leadership of the SPLA. They moved around the CIA and the what, and look, to summarize, why was the SPLA the first rebel movement in Africa, where the commanders had super buildings in foreign towns? When the Kulaigye were in the bush, they were moving in Iraq because the US was not giving them money. So the US started buying the SPLA, buying the SPLA. And today they are together with the SPLA in the same bed. The Union of Islamic Courts had the same problem. The US was not comfortable with them and worked to disorganize it and to pick some people like now the current president. Unfortunately, the president left his power behind. If President 7 came here without Kulaigye, will you be very strong?
Let's get back to this.
He will not be very strong without Kulaigye.
Why do we want to send more helicopters to Somalia when we already made such a big loss? Are we really going to get compensated? And what happens? How does the compensation flow down to the family?
I think what most important is the objective. The objective here is that whereas previously we were holed up in Mogadishu, actually just an eighth of the city, today AMISOM is 50 kilometers south of Mogadishu, 50 kilometers north of Mogadishu. So the entire Shabelle region, north and southern Shabelle, is in the hands of AMISOM. In the event of, say, a casualty in Baidoa, as you are fighting for Baidoa, to evacuate this casualty to come to Mogadishu for treatment by road, given the state of the roads in Somalia, you will lose the person. So we need air evacuation, definitely. So the MI-24 that successfully made it is purpose for casualty evacuation. Now, 2, we are headed for the last stronghold, if I may call it, of Al-Shabaab. You would wish to have air support on the assault, either for Kismayu or any other stronghold left. And therefore, the AU and United Nations saw it fit that we needed force enablers, as they are called, and air support was necessary. In fact, Kenya is also expected to bring in the naval support from the other side, since they have a navy that the rest of us don't have, Burundi and Uganda. So that is the reason, and therefore the loss, much as it pains us, the objective to go on. But
let's look at the balance sheet, the bottom line of it. Do we get a net loss or do we get compensated in the end?
One, materially, that's a subject that's going to be part of discussion. But 2, I believe in the end, the success of the mission will definitely benefit the country, will benefit the region.
But the balance sheet?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We stand to benefit more.
Well, maybe about the compensation here. First, the memorandum of understanding between the government of Uganda, where all of us are there, and my brother Kulaigye and his team, the UDPF are, and the AU on one side, has never been made an open document to all of us. Though in my capacity as Minister of Defense and Security, I've been able to have a look at it. I've got access to it, not in the official ways given to me, like, but the system, we got to know when we were investigating. This document has a lot of loopholes. If my brother had come along with it here, or if you could land on it, you will find from that document whether really we can get an outright compensation or not. But for me, whether we are compensated or not, if really our going there was our own mission, we should not cry if we are not compensated, because what about the people we have lost? If we decided to go there, it was our own mission, then this would be our own loss. Only somebody who helped us. We say, okay, thank you for helping us. And if the mission is still there and we need more help, if the person is willing and capable of giving us the help, let them give the help. But for me, this should not be treated as a loss caused by the Union of by the AU, the African Union. We are sure of the arrangements made that the equipment we used, our own equipment, even be it a small radio call, an AK-47, or the boots of the soldiers, all these things are compensated. They are paid for. Everything, including the salaries of soldiers. The only problem we get from this Somali thing is the deduction from the salaries of every soldier, $200 per month. From
what do you mean?
You see, our soldiers are paid $1,000. Yes. On the MOU, it is $1,028.
Yes.
But what goes to the pocket of the soldier is less by $200.
Maybe they pay as you are. No. From the listeners.
This one is a very big question of theft, actually.
No.
Because we looked for this money. Where is it taken? But it's not small, by the way. How many soldiers are there? We're about 76,000, 8,000.
I think you maybe have wished to just bring controversy.
But that's the reality.
We have explained.
The soldiers are complaining.
Let's hear from the spokesperson.
I think even if a soldier complains, that soldier would be looking for sympathy that does not exist. And I will give you why. When we came to Parliament to ask for Parliament permission to deploy in Somalia, it was clearly made the mission would be budget innocent. That was the phrase.
Yes, it will not affect the Uganda
budget. It will not affect the Uganda budget. Yet, before the soldier is deployed into the mission area, he is trained for months. You are feeding him on training, you are dressing him on training, you are treating him on training. So if you are not going to encroach on your budget, then who will need
part of it?
So the 200 meets his training, and two, because of that, they remain on our payroll for the monthly salary. Our colleagues from Burundi, who get the entire 1,028, do not earn a salary from home.
Right. So what they lose with the left hand, what Peter takes away.
Yes.
Well, let's hear from your listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. The topic now: should Uganda expect compensation for its helicopters that crashed recently? Looking at the Memorandum of Understanding between the UN and the AMISOM mission. You can call in now. Our number is 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
About the $200.
Okay, we'll talk about it. Let's hear from the listeners. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, your name?
I'm called Sydney.
Sydney, yes?
I think
Spectrum, hello? Yes, sir, your name? Good evening, your name? Mr. Where? Spectrum, hello? Hello? Okay, you please tell us your name and where you calling from. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir, your name?
Moses in Luero.
Yes, Moses in Luero. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
Good evening, Edmond.
Good evening, sir, your name?
This is Samuel.
Yes, Samuel.
Now,
Alright, let's get our final caller. Spectrum, hello?
hello?
Yes, your name?
I'm calling Kenyana Richard.
Yes, Richard. Alright, thank you, Honorable.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I go back, before I answer some of these questions, I go back to the question of the $200.
Yes.
Now, take an estimate, just an estimate of the number of soldiers, say 8,000. Though the number may be less or more. My brother here, we cannot talk about the specific figure, but for the purpose of understanding of this point,
Yes.
8,000 times 200, how much money is that?
$1 million a month. $1.6 million.
$1.6 million
Every month.
every month. Now, times 12 months, how much money is that?
That's, well, about $12 million. Well, more than 12
More.
About
That's a
19
lot of
million
money.
About 19 million.
Now, there is a rule about income and expenditure of a government. Monies going into the government must go to a common pool called the consolidated fund. Whoever brings money as revenue to the government,
Yes.
must take it there first. And whoever wants to use money should now ask for this money from there.
Yes.
And if you are going to use money for procurement of whatever services or goods, we have a law, the PPDA law, on how to use
Public procurement.
public procurement. This money is used without following this.
$19 million every year.
That is what we have questions about. $1.6 million
Every month.
every month. This is
$19
one
million
month.
every year.
Are you sure this money goes to the UPDF or the top brass is just eating it? This is where we have a question.
Well, I'm here to
We
answer the
don't have a problem with the earning money from clean sources. If it is an arrangement like this, what my brothers said, no problem. But why don't you follow the rules? Why don't you put this money in a pool where we can follow where it is? We look for this money, it is not there in the
Bank of Uganda.
In the Bank of Uganda. Where does it go? And soldiers coming from Somalia, for the record, let me give you my brother. I have received intentions to sue the government of Uganda, sue the Attorney General. These are soldiers who have been in Somalia for the suffering they are being subjected to, particularly those who are injured and supposed to be compensated. It is also in the MOU. The extent of injury is defined and the amount of money paid per injury levels. And the families of those who have been killed, when they come home, they suffer payment or as provided for in the MOU is not followed. So soldiers are suing the government And the permanent secretary, Ministry of Defense, has received the intention to sue by the soldiers. I have the details, but I'll give you if you need it. So this brother who has said the MP has the information gap, who has stayed in Somalia here, I don't know whether he's aware about these problems. I don't know whether he's part of the complaining soldiers or he's part of the factors making the soldiers to complain, because some people have been profiting from
I think I can give information anyway.
So the question of the $200 still prevails.
$19 million every year.
That is a lot
which
of
you cannot
money.
trace.
And all the years, how many years are we there now?
But first of all, how do you trace it when it is being used? That is another factor. In any case, Parliament has the right to ask about this money, and I believe my minister will explain how this money is being spent. There is no secret about it. Secondly, it's true, many of our soldiers have not been compensated. We have been arguing with the African Union. It's not our money that compensates them. It's supposed to come from African Union. African Union delays to compensate them. It's a matter of concern for us as well. So every soldier that has bothered to listen, we have explained. It's true, we have those who are maimed, those who have died there. All those deserve compensation, and they are right to it. When we are mad, however, there is a medical board that must determine, and the AU is involved in examining the casualty. So that one, everything is transparent. I'm very confident Parliament will know how we are using this $200 per soldier. Now, Kenya, I will tell you, he's a civilian. Kenya has been working with UNESCO in Somalia, in Mogadishu. So he was there when he went in.
That's why he's ignorant about the issue of the soldiers. He doesn't know the suffering.
No, the suffering, of course, you are talking about, we know it. And I think we are touched by the suffering of our soldiers, because when one of your combatants gets maimed, it's a reduction in your capability. So we are definitely concerned, and for him, he was talking about the benefits of the country and the region, given his experience in that place. Now, I wanted also to add this, the Edmond. Whenever we get some of these hiccups, if I may call them, or misfortunes like this, the helicopter disaster, indeed, you want to re-examine the mission, you want to examine the intention, you want to look for whom to blame. All these are a mixed bag. I would pray, especially on the causes. I've had Parliament is setting up its own committee to go and investigate. Surely it's welcome in my humble view. But we should not speculate as to what caused as yet. I'm sure we'll find the reasons. Survivors are there. You will access them. You will access Nanyuki, I'm sure, unless Kenya refuses. So it's important we do not hazard into speculation and wait for the findings to come out. And I'm very sure the truth shall be known.
Will Kenya and the other countries also get compensation for their equipment that they are contributing?
First of all, they pay you. Whether an AK-47, as you were saying it, whether it be AK-47 or a boat you are sending in, you are paid for it. And that goes to the consolidated fund. I'm sure you are aware, Honorable.
And when you send these,
that's why we have a problem with that one. We have not questioned, because we have rules about tracking monies of government.
Yes.
Our question is about only the $200. Okay, we have explained, but you public should know that there is a question still about that. But about the goods, it's okay. And again, as a general principle, for me, I'm a Pan-Africanist. Africa must stand on its own. If we have our idea, which is ours, why do you want somebody to pay us for that? If I build myself a house in the village, it is me who needs the house, and I have looked for the resources, cut the grass, the spear grass or whatever.
But what if you are not capable?
But I cannot demand somebody by force outsider that this house pay for it. If it is our project, we must pay for it. Africa must mobilize its own resources from within and from without. Those who want support us, let them support us without buying away our right and our voice.
Well, Africa is Africa. If you want independence, you might live in a grass-thatched house, and others live in. The Chinese gave us the African Union. They did not stop there. They gave us president's office, which some people say the president does not want to occupy because of ideological reasons. We'll have to end here. Thank you very much, our dear guests. Colonel Felix Kulaigye, Defense and UPDF, spokesman for the Ministry of Defense and the UPDF. That's the National Army. Thank you for coming, Spectrum, tonight, sir. Honorable Hassan Kaps Fungaroho, Shadow Minister of Defense. Also,
his name is a mouthful.
Obongi County.
No,
Thank you for tuning in.
The best will for the UPDF. For me, I'm their friend. That's why these days I am the best. I'm the leading receiver of complaints from the UPDF. If the minister fails, the army comes to me. So, Mr. Kulaigye, Afande,
he has backup.
I'm here for you. When you have problems which the minister failed, so come to me.
Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Spectrum.
I will take him on.
It's ShopRite's incredibly big birthday, where we're offering you more low-price deals than ever before. Celebrate our birthday with the lowest prices, like a 1.5-liter bottle of Coke, Sprite or Fanta at 2,750 shillings only. 2 kilograms of Chibimba Tilda rice at 7,400 shillings only. 2 kilograms of